I am Chandler Klebs, and I'm going to refute free will. But first, I'm going to define it. Free will, as I'm defining it, and many dictionaries do, is that we are 100% in control. That our choices are free choices that are in no way affected by prior causes or anything outside of our control. And that's obviously false, and let me explain. First of all, we don't choose our genetics. We don't choose our hair, skin color, gender, traits of whatever nationality, whatever. We don't choose our genetics at all. Because to do so would basically mean that before we were conceived, we chose which two people had sex. And I don't claim that responsibility, and I don't think anybody else does either. So aside from the fact that we don't control how our own bodies develop, our own DNA and all that stuff, we also don't choose how we're taught or what we're fed. All the experiences that we have in life, we don't choose those because that is determined by all sorts of other living and non-living things. And that's just a basic fact. I mean, there's things outside of our control. So what I'm saying is we're not 100% free, but then when you think about it logically, if everything has a cause, it's pretty much like we're not in control at all. And this is where it gets interesting, because when people talk about free will, they really mean that they have a will. They say they're making choices. They say, of course I have free will. I'm making choices. But every choice has a cause. Everything we do, we have a reason for it. Now, sometimes we don't know the reason why we do things. And like we're unconscious. Like we have an unconscious part of our brain that does stuff without our knowledge. And our bodies function. All our body functions happen without our knowledge, our permission, all of that sort of stuff. So we don't have control over things like whether we burp or fart or sneeze or cough, all those things. And we also cannot choose to do something that we have no knowledge of. And that goes back to what we're taught. What you're taught by your parents, your friends, teachers in school, or in a religion like a church or synagogue or mosque or anything like that. Your choices, your own opinions and beliefs are not your own. They come from somewhere. And that's what's so interesting about it, that on one hand, we're unique, and that each one of us is different. And there will never be another person exactly like us. And that's cool. So we feel a sense of individuality. We also have this false sense of self, like that we are ourselves, like that we are in control of our own things and what we do, but really we can't take credit or blame for what we do. I mean, if you make a decision and it's based off of any information, whether someone told it to you, or it's in a book, or you just observe something anywhere, like the behavior of some animal, you studied the way a grasshopper hops or whatever, you are basing it on your experiences, which come from your physical senses. So if you're, Helen Keller, you're blind and deaf, then obviously you don't have the freedom to do anything that people with sight and hearing can do. Now, there's freedom of action and freedom of will, which are separate things, because freedom of will would imply that we can choose our own desires, choose what our desires are. That would mean being able to choose what foods we like or don't, what tastes good or not. choose what gives us pleasure or pain, choose things like, sexual orientation, that sort of thing, and we don't really have that kind of choice. And you might be thinking, well, who really cares if we have those kind of choices or not? Well, for the most part, the individual doesn't care. And that's the beauty of it. Because if I'm doing what I want, that makes me happy. People generally are happy when they're doing what they want. So it's not really a problem. The only time it becomes a problem is when what one person wants and what another one wants don't match up. When two people can't both get what they want, and this is the source of conflict. This is the source of, all kinds of broken friendships and marriages and that sort of things. When you have disagreements and sometimes you have arguments and terrible fights or even wars. But the reason that it's helpful to understand that this belief in free will, that we can even choose our desires and our emotions and all that kind of crazy stuff, I mean, if you overcome that, then you don't blame people in the same way. You don't blame yourself in the same way. Realizing that you might have an ideal, you might have a desire to be perfect, to do something perfect, to be the best at something, to do all kinds of things that you can't do. And I've been frustrated with that I can't be perfect, always say and do the right thing. Basically, if I always knew the right thing to do, which is going to make people happy or make myself happy, it'd be different. Like, I'd be able to talk to people and communicate with them without them getting mad, you know. But at the same time, it gets more complicated than that, because sometimes I have to speak the truth even when it's gonna upset somebody, because I'm honest, and honesty right there, the desire to be honest and tell the truth, means that I don't really. That's another reason I don't have free will. Like, I'm honest. I'm gonna say what I think or know is true, even if other people don't like it, when it needs to be said. And that's just kind of what happens. And the fact that we also have a desire to be relevant to people, to be connected with people. Now, perhaps my desire to be connected with people, to have friendships, isn't as strong as it is for some people, because some people would rather lie to keep a relationship going. They would rather compromise and pretend to agree with something that they don't, just to keep a person in their life. And I just can't do that. As much as I want to remain friends with people, there comes a time, when it doesn't work, because other things take priority. If someone that I know is hurting someone else, I'm going to call them out on it. Or when they're doing something to me that I don't like. When something is just wrong, then that's where it becomes a problem. And so when it comes to an important issue like abortion or animal rights or some kind of disagreement about a very controversial topic, well, I don't always get along with people. And sometimes there's arguments, and people don't always understand where I'm coming from. And they don't understand the attitude with which I'm coming from. And I don't want to punish people. I don't like to cause people pain. I don't like to get people upset. But at the same time, I just can't allow something to go on. If it's wrong, if somebody's being hurt, if a lot of people are being hurt by something painful or something false that's causing people to behave in a weird way, some harmful way, well, then I want to speak up about it. And that's part of the motivation for talking about free will and why it's an illusion. Because really, Sometimes when somebody hurts you, you just think, well, they did that because they're evil or they chose their own free will. But really, that's not what's going on. I mean, there's some cause for why someone chooses something. Now, it might be a stupid cause, it might be an immoral cause, but there's a cause nonetheless. And the point of overcoming the free will illusion is for us to find the causes. Because if we know the cause of something, we will then act to eliminate that cause. If you go to the root of the problem, the source of the trouble, then you can prevent bad things from happening in the future that happened to you in the past. But once again, you only know that something hurts you or someone else because it's already been done in the past. So the causal past is still causing our present and future decisions. So it's kind of this illusion that we're making choices, free choices, that aren't hindered by things outside of our control. But really, there's all kinds of things outside of our control. Our genetics, our environment, the way we're taught, all sorts of things that really keep us from just making choices without a cause. I've never heard of a choice without a cause. And maybe we don't know the cause. Maybe we don't know why we roll over in our sleep or something like that. We don't know everything. But we don't have to claim to know everything. We just know that there's a cause, and we try to discover that cause. And I hope that you understand that. And if you don't, I guess I can't blame you because you don't have a free will. And that's kind of the great joke of it. Hope you enjoy. Bye.